Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Melva O'Neill. She is the Community Engagement Coordinator for Safe Futures, and it is her second time on the show, so we welcome Melva back to the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. For those who aren't familiar with Safe Futures, describe it as an organization. What is it?
So Safe Futures is a domestic violence sexual assault agency. So we not only work with victims and survivors, but we also work very hard to prevent it from happening in the first place through a number of different programs.
Prevention is key, isn't it?
It is.
Just like with anything else in life, your health, staying in shape, your car, preventative, it's key. That's all I can say. You'd rather have your car break down at your convenience when you can go and have some work done on it as opposed to when you're driving somewhere.
Right. And when we're working with people, right? If we can be preventive, if we can teach children who are growing up how to have healthier relationships, and we're also trying to teach those skills to people who have grown up without those kind of skills at the same time, so they're not passing that on to their children, right? Those negative behaviors onto their children, and their children are also learning those positive behaviors as they grow up. Eventually, hopefully, we can put ourselves out of business if we're able to do that.
Right. That's the goal, keeping the fingers crossed and knocking on wood. How do you teach children those good, philosophies? Is it through the school system? Are they meeting? Are they gathering for, meetings to just talk about it? How does that work?
So for about I think we're in our 21st or 22nd year at Safe Futures doing a program called Violence is Preventable, or VIP as we refer to it, and a Healthy Relationships program in the schools. And those programs are based on a research-based curriculum. Second step, we take their curriculum and we apply it to what is going on with our children and our teenagers in the world today, right? So maybe that curriculum, when sexting first started, or a lot of text messaging and a lot of social media, the program didn't actually have that built into it yet, but we added those components. So through those combinations, we are able to address the students with whatever they're dealing with at any given time. The way that we do it is usually, yes, within classrooms. So we don't do assemblies, and we don't do all of the fifth grade at the same time. We address each fifth grade or each fourth grade or whatever the grade level is, we address them in their classrooms. So we're only dealing with anywhere from 20 to 30 students at a time, right?
The smaller group of children you may have, the better. Maybe you can have their attention focused and kind of target them a little bit better, do you think?
Right, their attention is better focused. They're more likely, once we build up a rapport with them, to actually say what's on their mind.
Participate.
When they're with a larger group, the more peer pressure they're going to have, right? The more inhibited they're going to feel. Especially if they're a student who may have been picked on already at any certain time, labeled in any way. So if we can get them in their classroom and we can get everyone working together in the classroom, we're just better able to address all of those issues.
And when they do start talking, when they do start participating, asking questions, what are they asking about? Because, like you said, some of them may have personal experiences, but others may just start getting curious and want to learn. So what are they? Because you mentioned before, you adapt. The texting thing, the sexting thing, wasn't in there. You added it, you adapt. What kind of questions are they asking?
It depends on the age level. So when the children are young, we may be reading them a story about, and the story may include, two young people, two boys, maybe they're 7 years old. They're playing, another child comes over and wants to play, they won't let them. So let's talk about why do you think that happened? Did one of them want to be feel in control of the situation, or they wanted to be the boss that day, or whatever it happens to be? And then why do you think they did it, but then why do you think the other person didn't say anything? And then how do you think that outed child felt? And by having that conversation, everybody starts to develop empathy skills, and they become more aware of, they know how that feels, and they become more aware of, you know what, it's not only me. It doesn't only feel that way to me. It feels that way to everybody when we do that to them. So we might have that kind of conversation with a younger child. As they get older, you know, maybe we're talking about not fighting in school, or not bullying, or not being part of this group that kind of likes to push people around. And some of the questions might be, well, how do I not do this when you don't get any respect? Respect is a big thing. You don't get respect if you don't stick up for yourself, and sticking up for yourself means hitting or pushing or shoving. Or how do I deal with this? You know, I get what you're saying. This is what one student said to me. I get what you're saying, but in reality, when I go home and my relatives, my cousins, my parents are having a disagreement and they're getting into a fist fight, how do I go against that?
Yeah.
When everybody else around me is behaving this way?
Yeah. And then you have to have an answer for them too, right?
Right. We
Yeah.
have to have an answer.
Yeah.
And our answer is that we can all learn skills to solve these problems nonviolently.
Right. And, you know, you mentioned, especially with the younger kids, they develop empathy, not only for, not only a situation where they may experience something themselves, but even if they didn't, having this discussion in this small group, develop empathy for their classmates and their friends who have gone through it. Maybe they didn't understand, maybe because it didn't happen to them, but to learn about it makes you more empathetic, and maybe even eventually cause you to have a conversation with one of your friends that has dealt with it. And, you know, peers one-on-one, that can actually, you know how they say talking it out makes you feel a little bit better. Well, talking to someone your own age may even feel a little bit better than an adult, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So first, introducing it. Maybe they have never experienced it for themselves. But by doing some role playing and by having these discussions, again, they can learn to develop the empathy. And they don't usually, although we have a lot of parents, and, you know, as parents we can be egotistical. I'm a parent myself. Even when we have a really, really good relationship with our child and we think that they share everything with us, the truth is they don't.
Right.
And for a number of reasons, they don't trust us.
Or trust
because,
adults.
Right, because they don't trust adults because we are trying to steer them down the right path, and they may not recognize our approach as being safe for them, or being, maybe it's not cool, right? Our approach isn't cool. Or, you're my parent, you don't know anything that's going on. You don't understand anything.
You've never experienced any of this stuff.
this. You know, and especially teens, they think that they do know a lot.
Don't they? Don't they know everything in the world?
Right, but
Yeah.
I think that everybody feels that way. I think starting when they're a teenager, and, you know, I remember people saying to me when they were 30, wow, I know so much now, though. More now than I did when I was a teenager. But they didn't, when they get to be 50, they say, wow, I thought I knew everything by the time I was 30. So the teenagers feel the same way. And teenagers also don't process things the way that we do.
Adults do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes it really difficult for them and their choices. But if we can have peer mentors, like you're saying, that they can talk to, that are, you know, trained, skilled, have a better understanding of what healthy and unhealthy relationships look like.
Does that peer mentor need to be somebody who has experienced a little bit of the darker side? Does it make to have the experience? Does that make it more plausible for someone that they're talking to?
I think it would depend on who you were talking to,
Yeah.
right? If it's more plausible to the person, we could say that when we're working with adults too. Now we have adult victims who come in, and one person will feel safer in an environment where the person might have some master's degrees on the wall, or some, you know, their LCSW up there. Other people will feel safer with maybe someone from a faith-based organization, right? Other people will feel safer and be willing to share more with someone who has had a similar experience. And I think it's the
they feel they
same
can
with
relate.
teens. Right, because they feel like they relate, like you can understand where they may be coming from.
Right.
You know, so I think it's the same with teens, and I think that, yes, if there's If there's someone their age who can at least have a good understanding of it, yeah, and if they have good empathy skills, they don't have had to have gone through it themselves, you know, as long as they have those empathy skills.
Is a parent deluding themselves if they think they know everything about their child? Because you really, and you're a parent too, so
I am a parent.
do you know everything about your child?
I'm not an expert.
Right. No, but you're a
I'm
parent.
just a parent.
A parent makes you an expert.
Yes, I don't think we always know everything. I think there are things that our children would think would shock us. I think there are a lot of things that kids don't think we understand because they do. They're living in their own little community while they're in school.
Staying with the children for a moment, big buzzwords these days are bullying, including cyberbullying. How do you deal with that?
Same way.
Same way.
Our programs are designed to start like in second grade and go up through ninth grade.
And that's another thing that I would imagine, you have to evolve with, because kids are online younger and younger. And by online, I mean with computers in school, even at those young ages, doing all their homework online, doing research. You know, it's much more of a technological world than it was just, you know, a number of years back, right?
Right. It's a lot easier to bully someone.
You can
when
be
you're doing it
anonymous.
online, right? You can be anonymous. You won't get caught right away. You know, some of that friction might be afraid. If you're caught at a later date, if you're found out at a later date, pictures, a lot of times students don't understand. You put the picture up, or you send somebody a nude photo. You have a boyfriend, they want a nude photo, they've been bothering you for a while. You put that out there. If that photo goes out anywhere else, it's out for the world,
Right.
and you can never retrieve it.
Right. It's there for the world to see if the other person, you know, you know, isn't a nice person, and they can save it and do whatever they want with it after
Right,
that.
or
too.
or even, I'm not saying necessarily that they're not a nice person, but we all make really poor decisions.
Lose your phone,
at different-
send it to somebody else, a friend who you thought you could trust.
Right,
that kind
or
of
you
thing.
broke up,
Yeah.
and in the heat of your anger or disappointment, you send it off to someone who then sends it off to someone else.
Staying online for a moment, how important it is for parents, to monitor social media, know passwords and usernames of their kids if they're going to be on Facebook or their email or things like that?
You know, I think it is extremely important, especially if you notice a change in behaviors or maybe attitudes. You've noticed that your child isn't involved in the same activities that they were before. I think that's a sign that there might be something else going on, whether maybe they've started drinking or something, or maybe they're in a relationship that's not healthy, and their partner is isolating a lot of their time, so they're no longer hanging out with their friends, and they're no longer doing sports like they used to, or spending family time.
Yeah, these are all social activities, and if you see yourself pulling away, or you see someone pulling away from that and getting more, you know, kind of insulating themselves from the world, whether it be being online or, you know, doing those things that aren't as social, playing
Right.
sports, being with their friends or family.
Right, and I think, you know, with kids, especially, again, teens, they really feel that they need this privacy. They're becoming adults, and they want to be independent. There's a part of them most of the time that knows that they can't be totally independent, but they want to be, and they want to make their own decisions. And so when they feel an invasion of privacy has happened, you know, that's huge. That's a huge thing against your relationship. So I think the whole thing is you need to let them know, hey, I am going to check. I am going to keep an eye on you, and these are the reasons why, because we want you to be safe, because I know you know things that I don't know, but I also know things you don't know. Those kind of conversations happen to go on. And then that way, when you do check, there's not such a sense of violation. At least you were upfront and honest with them.
Let's take a break and come right back. I want you to give out the website for people to go and learn more.
Our website is www.safefutures, with an S, safefutures.ct.org.
All right, we'll put a graphic up on the screen too. Melva O'Neill's the Community Engagement Coordinator for Safe Futures. We'll take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest, Melva O'Neill, the Community Engagement Coordinator for Safe Futures. We've been kind of talking about teens and children for a majority of this segment. So I'll kind of segue this into this month that we happen to be taping. This happens to be Teen Dating Victims Month. Talk about that a little bit.
Actually, Sean, it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month.
Okay.
And Congress decided in 2010 that it was important enough to give specific, attention to this. 1 in 5 students will be a victim at some point in time of an unhealthy dating relationship. And when we think about that, I know we separate it, right? Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month from Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but really they're going through exactly the same things. Except maybe there's more social media harassment going on.
Right, because they're more savvy with it.
Right, maybe there's more stalking via social media or your phone going on than there might be an adult, although there's a lot of that too. But this is a reality for these kids. There are teen boys and girls who are living in relationships that are very unhealthy for them, whether it's, again, stalking or forced sex or just violent language, physical violence toward them, name calling all the time, or the isolation that I talked about before, somebody trying to control how they spend their time all the time.
Yeah. The thing about teen dating violence is, as adults, we've all had experiences, a bad relationship in our lives, and maybe we know how to, at the even some adults don't know how to get out of a bad relationship, but the teens don't have life experience. So, and this may even be their first relationship, and it's a bad one. So they have nothing to go on, right?
Right, exactly. Moving forward, that's what they have to go on. So the only thing they've seen is the relationships that are going on around them. So what do their peers' relationships look like? What do their parents' relationships or their extended family, what do those relationships look like? And do they look similar? Maybe they do. If they're in an unhealthy relationship, maybe they're mirroring something that they've seen before. Or maybe they just don't really have a good understanding at all about relationships, like you're saying. Like, this is all new. Well, this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a little controlled, right? We love each other. And that's the big thing with kids. It's all about we love each other, and therefore we're going to make it. We're going to be a couple that makes it. We're not going to split up. And what it takes to do that is to stick it out through thick and thin.
Right. They don't have any experience with the rough patches and don't know how to handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so they might mistake that very unhealthy behavior for just a rough patch.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Right. I want to fast forward to adulthood now, because there's a lot of things in this world that are very popular with society in general. Unfortunately, for example, it was not a very good year for the NFL. Yeah. Considering the very public domestic violence issues that occurred, and how the league had to deal with it, and how our society in general, sort of was keeping a close eye to see what kind of repercussions there would be from this. And let's face it, the NFL is something that a lot of Americans watch on a weekly basis, and they kind of look up to these athletes. And when you hear the domestic abuse issues that occur, you almost don't know how to react to it.
You don't know how to react, and I think it's horrible what happened. And it was out there, right. And it was very visible, and it was a catalyst for more discussion nationwide.
So in that sense,
right.
To be able to have dialogue because of it, you could argue that if it had to happen, at least there was some good that came out of it, in the sense that maybe at the very least we become more aware of it.
we become more aware of it, and we did as a nation
Right.
speak up and say to the NFL, this needs to change. We will not allow this to go on. We are
Right.
not going to watch. We're not going to sponsor you.
Right. That's true, because some sponsors threatened to pull out and did pull out for a little while because of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's very powerful. It's a shame that it took that
To a video
took
to
a
spread
video,
all
a
over.
blatant, very blatant
Yeah.
video to get that movement going. But now, and even now, I understand. I didn't watch the whole Super Bowl. I was kind of working and talking to people, and I
Patriots won, by the
understand
way, in
that.
case you were
I
wondering.
do know the
Yeah.
Patriots won, and I
Okay.
am a Patriots fan.
Okay. Then you can stay.
Thank you.
All right.
But I also I heard that there was a lot of feedback. There was one domestic violence commercial on from No More, and there was a lot of backlash about that. That hey, we want to have fun. We don't want to listen to any serious commercials or anything. We just want to have fun when we're here. Well, I can't deny the importance of having fun. It's really important, right? But we also need to realize that we need to look at the sports arena and not only football. We need to look at our celebrity status and what kind of message that is sending out to our children and to us as adults.
Anyone who the kids look up to are role models, whether they're athletes, celebrities.
Right. So we need to be, okay, maybe it's not during the Super Bowl, but it needs to be a common topic until it doesn't exist anymore. The Grammys,
Another good example.
great example, but interestingly enough, all of the focus on domestic violence and assault was very well accepted during the Grammy. I don't know what it is about the music arena that's different from the sports arena, but I think music makes people happy.
Yeah,
right?
I think that makes them happy, and I think they know like the lifestyles that maybe some of the artists portray, but not necessarily live in real life, or maybe they do. Somehow, certain things are accepted based on what you do for a living, your lifestyle, I guess, and some of the artists, use some of their, what's going on in their environment in their songs, whether it be on the violent
Right.
side or not so much. So,
Right.
and again, an example of how people, kids and adults, will look up to them and, kind of almost, live vicariously through them and act the
Absolutely.
way that the artist does.
Act the way that they do. That listen to the music, and even though a lot of people don't actually listen to the lyrics,
Right.
and if they did,
They
might be astounded
Yeah.
by what they were actually
Especially
saying.
parents,
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
Oh, this has a great beat. I really like it. It's a great dance song. But what is it really telling you? Is it telling you it's okay to beat your partner,
Right.
or to harass your partner, or stalk? There's a lot of stalking in some of the music.
Yeah, you
these
just really got to
days.
pay attention to the lyrics. Earlier in the show, you talked about prevention. And when you think of, like, for example, like, say, a women's shelter, they'll come in, they'll be taken care of, and you'll work with the woman about what to do for their future, get them back on their feet. But when you talk about prevention, you also, to use that example, you have to talk about, for example, in my notes here, men against domestic violence too. You work with the children, the women, but also the men, even if they're the perpetrator of the violence, right?
Well,
Sometimes.
not really. Not if they're the perpetrator. So when we say we work with men, we are saying that we have male victims who come to us, sometimes with their children, who are leaving an abusive relationship where their partner could have been another male,
Right.
or was a female, because
but
there are
men
some
can be
women-
victims too, right?
Men are absolutely victims. Currently, about 25% of our caseload is male. Now, that means it's probably about 10, maybe 12% adult male, and the other males are children who are coming in with a parent.
Right.
Right? But they can be abused, and they are abused, and we have worked with a number of male victims who have the benefit of all of our services. They go to a different shelter, of course.
Right.
They can't go to the female support group. And those kind of services, we've been talking about increasing the services that we have for men, because we are realizing that more and men are coming forward, you
Right,
know.
right. One final question before we wrap up the show. If somebody's watching the show today, if they feel like they may be a victim or know somebody or just has more questions, what's the first thing they should do?
I would suggest they call the hotline. They can go to our website and look, maybe get some information there. And it also has an escape button for them. If they're looking and then they don't want anyone to see them, they can quickly get out off the site.
I was going to ask
which
you,
is really important.
yeah, that some important things on the website, and if somebody's walking by and they don't want them to see, quick escape button.
Right, quick escape button. And then the other thing I suggest this to a lot of people, whether they're just not sure, they're not really sure.
Yeah.
Is this a not healthy relationship or not? Or if they're, they know.
What's the hotline number?
860-701-6000
And one more time on the website?
is safefuturesct.org.
Melva O'Neill is a community engagement coordinator for Safe Futures, and we learned a lot today. We probably could have done another whole show on it with so many more questions, but thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you very much, Sean.
And that is our show for today. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.